comic books. That's how I learned to read. Being born to a 16-year-old mom and raised by my grandparents in Orangeburg, we made do with the opportunities we created for ourselves, because that's all we had. And I learned a lot from them too, that real heroes help people, value honesty and loyalty. My story is my story. Lindsey Graham's story is just comical.
Wow, South Carolina Senate candidate Jamie Harrison making the case that not all heroes wear capes as part of his campaign to defeat Lindsey Graham in what was once considered a safe GOP seat. Democrats are seizing the opportunity of the Black Lives Matter movement to try and retake the Senate. One popular tactic is to expose the hypocrisy of their Republican opponents who have left so many Americans behind. Democrat Charles Booker, who had been considered the underdog in Kentucky's Democratic primary on Tuesday, has this to say about the man that he wants to unseat.
You know the name of the man I'm talking about, but he doesn't know your name. He doesn't see you in the hospital bed or the checkout line or at the safety drills in your classroom. He doesn't see you at all. This millionaire friends mine our land, our labor, without paying a living wage. He denies climate change, and he denies us a future. And this man knows more than anybody how to work the system in Washington. He's the architect. But he's done nothing for Kentucky because he's not your neighbor. He's not your brother. He ain't even from here.
Joining me now are 5 Democrats running for the United States Senate. Mike Espy running in Mississippi, Jamie Harrison running in South Carolina, Charles Booker in Kentucky, Reverend Raphael Warnock in Georgia, and Royce West, who's running in Texas. This is historic. If you just look at this box, everybody take a picture of your TVs right now, because this is the thing that the Barack Obama presidency presaged and promised, that you would see a surge of African Americans running for office. And what I love about this story is that this is happening in the South. Pay attention, Democrats. It's in the South. This is where the game is going to be played. Let me start with my friend Jamie Harrison. Let's start with you, sir. Your ad, your comic book ad, which shows Lindsey Graham flip-flopping. Here it is. It's Graham as a comic book villain, flip-flopping around. What is your core case against Senator Graham?
Thank you so much, Joy, and happy Father's Day to all my brothers on the show today. Listen, my case is that Lindsey has been an absentee senator. It's almost like watching a live version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's a Lindsey Graham 1.0 and there's one the 2.0. But what this Lindsey Graham 2.0 doesn't do is represent the people of South Carolina. He hasn't done an in-person, in-live town hall in almost 3 years, Joy. And here in South Carolina, people are suffering. Our hospitals are closing, our rural hospitals are closing. 2 years ago, 14 of our 46 counties had no OBGYNs. 38% of South Carolina has no access to Wi-Fi. And so the state is falling apart, but this guy cares more about his tea times with the president than he does the people of South Carolina. And that's why we're building this movement. We're telling folks, come join us at jamieharrison.com, because it's important. This new South, which is bold, inclusive, and diverse, is about closing a chapter on the old South and starting a very new chapter. And I'm so happy to be with all of my brothers to do this.
Yeah, and you trumped me on the Happy Father's Day. I should have said that. I should have started with that. So Happy Father's Day to all of you. And by the way, Jamie, you're an experienced political guy. You worked with Jim Clyburn. You came up under him. You are raising a lot of money. You used to be the party chair, the Democratic Party chair in South Carolina. That's how I got to know you. Here's a poll showing you tied as of May 23rd through 26th with Lindsey Graham. Is it realistic for black South Carolinians, for white and black South Carolinians who are tired of Lindsey Graham's, as you say, tea times with Trump act and his sycophancy, where he flip-flopped from saying Trump is a kook to saying Trump is everything great in the world? Is that enough to oust Lindsey Graham, and can you do it?
Joy, we are going to do it. Last quarter, we outraised Lindsey Graham. He raised $5.6 million. We raised $7.4 million. That is more than any Democrat or Republican, black or white, has ever raised in the history of South Carolina. And we've done it not because we're getting $2,800 from all these corporate PACs, but we're doing it at $28 a person. There's an energy on the ground here in South Carolina like I have never seen before. And Lindsey should be scared. And that's why you see him sort of tacking back to the middle now. He's a king of flip-flops. He's on one side and then he's on the other side. But we're not going to give him any room to flip-flop because the people in South Carolina are tired of him, and they're going to give him a one-way ticket back home or to Mar-a-Lago, whichever one he wants.
Let's get that. He probably wants Mar-a-Lago at this point. It's his bestie. Let's go to Charles Booker. There's no offense to you, Jamie, but I would argue that what I noticed, the way I noticed you, Charles, is that I think you cut the single best ad of the cycle. Your opening statement ad in the state of Kentucky it was the best ad I've seen this cycle so far. A lot of people saw you as the underdog in that race versus Amy McGrath, who's got that military background, and she's the person that the Democratic Senate Committee seems to be favoring, even though they're not supposed to take sides. But here you are in a poll, out-polling her. What is going on? I even had a celebrity text me and say, what about this Charles Booker fellow? Can you beat Amy McGrath, and how would you go about unseating Mitch McConnell?
Well, yes, we're going to win this primary. We're standing up as regular people, fighting back for our future, fighting to end generational poverty, address structural racism, and to say that outside consultants will not dictate our future. We deserve more than a pro-Trump Democrat. We deserve more than lukewarm responses on ensuring health care for all people when folks are rationing insulin like I've had to do. So we're taking a stand. We're in the streets demanding justice for Breonna Taylor and David McAtee and everyone who's become a hashtag. But we're also understanding we got to get to the root. And the fact is, a lot of people are struggling in Kentucky. Regardless of whether you're from the hood or from the holler, you've been left behind. We've been left behind, and we've been getting screwed by Mitch McConnell. So we're saying we're going to beat him so that we can transform our future. And we don't care about the big money. We're building this for people. Folks fired up all over the Commonwealth saying, my life matters, that no lives matter until Black lives matter, and that we want a brighter future for all Kentuckians. And you know what? By leaning into that, we've raised nearly $3 million in this month alone. So we're building the movement. We have the infrastructure. We're going to win this primary, and we're going to get rid of Mitch McConnell.
And I think one of the things that you did, you have been very much a part of those protests. Amy McGrath, I don't believe, has been a part of it. I don't want to speak for her. I don't think that she's been as present, at least as you have been. Is that motivation enough to beat back the thing that we heard about this week, which is the potential for massive disenfranchisement in the state of Kentucky? Kentucky is bracing for, per the Washington Post, huge voting problems in Tuesday's primary with signs of high turnout. Fewer than 200 polling places will be open for voters, according to the Washington Post. Down from 3,700. That's the reduction that they've done in the number of polling places. Are you concerned that the vote for you will be restricted because of the slash in the number of polling places?
Well, I'm concerned that Kentuckians who deserve to be heard are going to have to face a lot of barriers. But we are not surprised, and we're used to this, unfortunately, because Kentucky has been one of the most disenfranchised states in the country. My granddad shared stories about having to guess the number of beans in a jar before he could vote. We know that it's hard for Kentuckians to be heard, so we're ready for that fight. So as much as it will be difficult, we are resolved, we're ready, we're fired up, and we will not be stopped. So we have shuttles going all over the Commonwealth. People are ready. We're going to have chairs, food, drinks, whatever we need so that folks can be heard, and then we'll get him out of there and put the changes in place to make sure that we restore voting rights, that we expand democracy for all people. So we are fired up, and we're building the movement to win.
And let's just remember that don't think that a Democrat can't win statewide in Kentucky. The current governor is a Democrat, Andy Beshear, and his daddy was also governor. So anything is possible. Anybody can win if you vote for him. Let's go on to Mr. Espy, Mike Espy. A lot of people will remember your name, those who have a good political memory. You were the former Secretary of Agriculture. And let me ask you what your strategy is. Let me put up a poll. Cindy Hyde-Smith, the woman who a lot of people only know for having said she'd show up front row to a hanging, a few years ago when you were running against her in a runoff. She's up ahead of you right now. But I will tell you that Stuart Stevens, who is a Republican operative, longtime Mississippi Republican operative, said to me once that if Democrats had put real money behind you, you could beat Cindy Hyde-Smith. He believes that he said that to me, he's a Republican. How would you do that? How would you do that in a state like of Mississippi?
Well, thank you, Joe. Good morning. Thanks for having me. And I want to say hello to all of my brothers, and I wish them well. Joy, we're going to win in November 2020 because we've run before and we've won before in Mississippi in a district that was not majority black. You remember we started, I was Secretary of Agriculture, but I was a member of Congress, and we stitched together a majority vote in that district. And then we went to the white side, and there was an agricultural downturn. And we went to those white agricultural leaders, and we says, look, invest in us, we'll respond to you, we'll listen to your concerns. And they trusted me, they elected me to a seat in the United States Congress, and we won. So let's project forward to current days. We've already had a dry run, Joy, running for this seat in 2020. You remember we ran 18 months ago, and we were the last Senate race in the United States to come on the board. We only had 6 months to run. We did exceedingly well. At the end of the day, we got 47% of the vote in the state of Mississippi, and we did it in two ways. Not by taking the black vote for granted. We have more black voters in Mississippi per capita than any state of the nation. But we spoke to them about issues, lifting their incomes, better healthcare outcomes, greater educational attainment, and they invested in me. And then we found out, Joe, that Mississippi is changing. It's not that same old stereotype demographically that we're used to. We have white voters now who are in suburbs, they're in college towns, they're in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, they're in areas that are becoming exceedingly purple and even blue. So our task here in about 5 months is to organize the greatest, widest, deepest black voter turnout in Mississippi's history, something we just did not have time to do 18 months ago, and then marry that with college-age voters who are passionate about the murder of George Floyd, marry that and stitch that together with white women of higher incomes, of higher educational attainment, and then stitch them all together to create a winning coalition and create a Mississippi for change, and a Mississippi that they deserve.
Well, and I have to say that Mississippi was the hardest state to try to register voters in the entire country back in the 1950s and 60s. It was sort of the heart of darkness for voter terrorism against voters. Is there enough of an infrastructure for black voters in Mississippi to be able to come to the polls or mail-in vote?
Two things. First of all, we've been doing our homework. We never quit. After we lost 18 months ago, we never quit. So we've already uncovered 100,000 black voters who didn't vote 18 months ago. They're very infrequent. Many of them haven't voted since Obama 2008. So now we know where they are, and it's just our job as a campaign to go and get them and encourage them to come out to the poll. But speaking more to your question, I'm going to give Stacey Abrams some props right here. Stacey is a daughter of Mississippi, and we now have a Fair Fight Mississippi chapter of Fair Fight Georgia. So we're here. We've been working since February to improve the voter affidavit ballot to make sure that on Election Day, everyone gets a chance to submit a fair ballot on time.
Okay, and you called up Georgia, so let me go to Reverend Raphael Warnock of the great Ebenezer Baptist Church. You are the pastor there. Let me put up some numbers. Now, this poll that I'm going to show, this is from March 31st to April 1st. This was conducted internally by the Doug Collins campaign, something called Battleground Connected, the poll. It showed Doug Collins at 36%. It shows Kelly Loeffler of the trading game at 13%, and it shows Raphael Warnock, yourself, at 16%. Georgia is a concern when it comes to voter suppression, needless to say, given who your governor is, given who your Secretary of State is, given what we've seen in election after election. Where would your confidence come from that you would be able to win in a state that seems to rather routinely deny black people their full right to vote?
Well, thank you so much, Joy. It's wonderful to be here with you and with my other brothers who are running for the U.S. Senate. Happy Father's Day to everybody. And when I think about Father's Day, I can't help but think about my own father, who was a preacher and a businessman, really a junk man who spent his days picking up old cars that other folk had thrown away. And then on Sunday morning, he preached on Sunday mornings like this to people who themselves felt thrown away. And it's his vision and commitment to a more inclusive humanity that's helped to drive me into this race. We can absolutely win in the state of Georgia, and the other side knows it. That's why they are engaged in such shameless forms of voter suppression. It will not stand. Remember that, yes, this is a state that is not embarrassed to participate in voter suppression, but also the home state or the state now of Congressman John Lewis. I'm proud to be his pastor. He's my mentor and supporter. He fought so that we might have the right to vote. And what I saw last Tuesday was Georgians who were willing to stand in line, even if it took hours and hours in order to vote. And as a result of that, we saw 1 million people show up for the primary. That's better than we saw in 2008 when Barack Obama defeated Hillary Clinton. And so the momentum is with us, the wind's at our back. The other side knows it, and that's why they're engaged in voter suppression. Stacey Abrams really laid the foundation for the work that we're going to finish come November. In spite of all of the tricks that the other side played, she came within 55,000 votes of winning. That's less than 1.5 points. We now have registered over 700,000 new Georgians since then. About half of them are people of color and people under the age of 30. The other side is afraid, and they should be, because come November, we're going to take this election.
Would you want to see Stacey Abrams on the ticket, on Joe Biden's ticket? Would that help? Would that help your race?
Stacey Abrams is one of the most brilliant people I know, and she certainly would be a fine choice. She's being considered for good reason, and we'll see what the vice president does. But this is definitely a change election. This is a moral moment in America, and we're going to pivot from this moral moment to a transformational moment. These are dark days. We are seeing really two pandemics that the nation is wrestling with. We're dealing with COVID-19. There are far too many people dying. People of color, African Americans in particular, are disproportionately represented in small cities like Albany, Georgia, a city with only 70,000 people. It was a hot spot for COVID-19, and it's challenged by ways in which Republicans in this state and across the country have fought against Medicaid expansion. I got arrested a few years ago in a governor's office, staging a sit-in, arguing for Medicaid expansion. And I say that not so you can feel sorry for me. If you're the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, Dr. King's Church, you can't be afraid to get arrested. It's an occupational hazard. I think as people think about their concerns, we're going to see a big change, and that change starts in the South. As goes the South, so goes the rest of the nation. It was true during the Civil War. It was true during the Civil Rights Movement. And I submit that it will be true in 2020. We have a president who stood in the Rose Garden the other day and used police in order to remove peaceful protesters from in front of the White House so he could go and stand in front of a church and hold it upside down. As a preacher, I submit he should read that Bible where it says, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Well, that plaza has been changed to Black Lives Matter Plaza. It is a signal to Donald Trump and to those who enable him, including the two on the other side that I'm running against, that come November, the people are coming back to get their House and the United States Senate.
All right, and let's now go to Royce West, State Senator Royce West, and you can thank your friend Jamie Harrison. He is the person who alerted me to your presence and your run down in the state of Texas. Let me show you what we have from the Dallas Morning News in terms of the polling. University of Texas poll conducted in late April found Mr. Hager leading, MJ Hager, who is your opponent, leading you among Democrats 32-16. However, 44% remain undecided. How do you get them to decide your way, and how do you win in a state like Texas, which also has pretty significant voter suppression?
I want to say happy Father's Day and happy Pawpaw Day to all of you also. You know what Pawpaw means. When you begin to think about Texas in that particular poll, that poll was taken right after the primary, and right after the primary, I had to start becoming a state senator and making certain that I dealt with issues concerning COVID in my particular senatorial district, and that's exactly what I did. It wasn't around until mid-April when we really began to focus on the election and focus on the election we have. When you begin to think about the momentum that our campaign is starting to generate, it's awesome. You look at who's been out there in front and working with the protesters in the state of Texas. It's been Royce West, and it's recognized by them. They will be voting, and they will be voting for Royce West. When you begin to think about Juneteenth, where did it start? It started right here in the state of Texas. My grandfather in Tulsa, Oklahoma, lived right there by Black Wall Street. And so I have a history of participation and also advocacy in the state of Texas and in terms of my heritage and my roots. And so from that vantage point, I'm going to be making certain that when I look at laws that have advanced the causes of all people in this country, body cameras was one of the first laws was adopted right here in the state of Texas. And you see now that it's becoming a staple across this country, and well, it should be. Look at other criminal justice reforms that I've championed here in the state of Texas. Racial profiling, body cameras, hate crimes. All of those have been a part of my leadership here in the state of Texas. Education, the same way, and health and human services. We've dealt with all of those particular issues, and we're going to continue to deal with them, continue to develop momentum in terms of our campaign, and we see it each and every day in terms of the number of people that are liking us on Facebook and other social medias, and the monies that are starting to come into our campaign.
All right. Well, voters often complain that they don't really know who is on the ballot. You just have a name on the ballot. You just have to choose. We have tried to give you an opportunity to see who some of these great candidates are. Next time we do this 2 years from now, we want to see more women, more black women running. But we love that you guys are all running. We wish you all luck. And I hope the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee goes south, because that's where the game is this year. The game this season, it's in the South, so pay attention, Democrats.
Sure.
Mike Espy,
Sure.
Jamie Harrison, Cory Booker. What were you going to say?
Joey, I'd like to say one other thing. You can go to RoyceWest.com.
Royce West wins because none of the rest of y'all gave out your .coms.
Let's be for Senate.com.
Jamie did. Okay, thank y'all very much. Everybody gave them out. Mike Espy, Jamie Harrison, Charles Booker, Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock of Ebenezer Baptist Church, Royce West, who gave out his .com. He's second because Jamie did give his out first. Thank y'all. Happy Father's Day. Appreciate you guys being here. And coming up.